Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 121 of the Peak of Serenity podcast. And as always, I am one of your hosts, emallson. Joining me, we have my co-host, Anomoly,
Hello.
who is maybe a little bit
Bit
sick,
under the weather.
a little bit under the weather. Uh, but yeah, sorry. So this is, I think, 2 weeks in a row we've done late episodes.
Yeah, on Monday, yeah. We get them in, though. We get them in. We're just a
Yeah,
day late at this
I
point.
IRL intervened on me yet again, and so here we are on a Monday recording
Yeah.
again.
It works.
Such
It
such
works.
is life. But yeah, so today we are primarily going to be talking about season 4 stuff because season 4 releases tomorrow. Um, and uh, maybe talking a little bit about how little we still know.
Yeah, I mean, we'll go through it, but I think that's the theme of season 4 is that they released a bunch. They said they released a bunch of information and then did, and then we finally got it all at the end, but still nothing
Yeah,
on PTR. So all we can go by is some notes that they set out that they might get into the live version of the game. We'll see. We'll see.
yeah. So that's going to be an adventure tomorrow. But
Yeah.
there's also Dragonflight Alpha news. Not anything monk related. There's a little bit though of tank stuff. We got Protection Paladin, Talent Tree, and we're not really going to. There's a Mage Tree as well. We're not going to talk about it because.
Who plays mages? Bad class.
So yeah, I guess let's things off.
Yeah, I guess real quick, I did want to say, did you I think you said last week you were only rating on Friday, right? This week,
Wow, that
or did
was
you
the
rate Friday and
plan.
Sunday?
It ended up
Oh,
being more reprog than expected because it's just the number of people that we had out.
yeah.
We just had like we were subbing probably 5 or 6 people, and when
Oh wow.
over a
Yeah.
quarter of your raid team hasn't killed a boss yet or hasn't killed it with you, it it takes more time. Like Lords of Dread was actually kind of a wall. Lords of Dread was a
Yeah.
huge pain in the ass. Rygolon was actually not that bad, but it did still take like a solid hour to get down. And then the jailer was actually significantly easier than any bosses. So
I that literally is my exact same experience. We wiped 21 times to Lords on Tuesday because we extended,
yeah,
so we only went back to get Lords in the Jailer. We wiped to Lords 21 times. We wiped to Jailer 4 times
yeah,
and killed it with 6 new people for both fights,
yeah.
which is just crazy.
We ended up having people like on Friday. Our comp for the jailer was kind of in that same like lots and lots of new people in some critical roles. People playing off specs, like we had our boomkin playing Resto Druid and stuff like that.
Oh, nice.
We had our healer that was out of town get back in time to raid Sunday. So we gave the jailer some time with like every new person in, and ended up
Nice.
for the purposes of just getting it done, swapping things around to have fewer new people in and just wrap up that boss, which kind of sucks because there's a couple people that we could have maybe spent a couple extra hours and gotten CE for them. Like we would have gotten it, I think, but
Yeah.
we just went with bringing in the old guard and ending raid at like the 90-minute mark instead of the 4 hour mark.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah, we struggled a little bit, like I said, but Jailer, I mean, having progressed that fight up to the start of like P3, so never really seeing most of P3. P3 is a joke.
Oh
Like
yeah. Oh yeah.
we got we got the first time we got through P3, so the first time we got to ads, killed the ads, and then pushed it to P4, we killed the boss. And it was all just our raid leader being like, okay, run here, now run close, now run away, and like the boss fell over. I was like, what? What is going on?
Yeah. That is like I now you maybe have better context for when I said I wanted them to like rebalance the jailer. Because the way
Yeah.
the fight works now is it's just like all phase one and phase two, and like I'm sorry, but phase one is just kind of is not
Yeah.
very fun. I would rather spend more time doing the like phase three stuff and phase four stuff than effectively zero time doing either, getting to ignore all of the mechanics. and killing the boss. Like, I would rather spend less time in phase one.
Yeah. Yeah, no, but it was so it means I got my CE, so I'm very
Congrats.
excited about that. Very excited. But yeah, no, it was a short raid week. I think we were done in like yeah, it was like 2.5 hours, I think.
Yeah,
3
yeah,
hours by the time we were done. So no, but yeah, season, I guess sort of similar experience that both of us had is that yeah, those the bosses before the jailer much more difficult than the jailer for sure.
yeah. We actually like we kind of crushed Anduin last week. Anduin was one of our better bosses, but yeah, just spent too
I,
much time on other things.
yeah, I'd have to check. I think Anduin, yeah, was like a maybe like a 4 or 5 pull boss again. It was like Halandris and Lords were like the big walls for us.
Yeah,
When we were doing it. So
yeah,
um but speaking of trying to get kills in right before the end, there's a bunch of stuff going away. That's sort of the first news thing I think is like
yeah.
a bunch of the achievements for season 3 are going away. So that includes ahead of the curve and cutting edge for jailer, of course. But then also all the Mythic Plus achievements go away. So like all your Keystone Conquerors, Keystone Master, those ones, and the Keystone Hero achievements, which for all the dungeons that aren't in season 4 also be unattainable.
Right.
So a bunch of stuff ending with season 3 as we start season 4. So if you didn't get it in, you have if you're NA like what 12 hours to figure it out, if
Yeah.
that.
Yep.
So
If you're
good luck.
EU, you have an extra day.
Yep.
Um, but this is also the I don't know when the score like requirement cutoff is locked in
Oh
for
yeah.
the title for like the top 0.1% or whatever it is. I know a couple people that are trying for that and are currently above the threshold for it, and hopefully
Oh, that's cool.
hopefully stay above the threshold for it.
That's nice. Yeah, I guess the key thing too though is the jailer mounts and actually Sylvanas mounts stay. So the mythic only mounts
Yeah,
are still 100% drop rate in season 4. So
yeah, that's actually
still need to farm those mounts.
one of the things that we're not super sure of with like a bunch of uncertainty about season four is where we're fitting in mount farming.
Yeah.
Because if we have to spend like most of every raid week in the faded raid, then maybe it becomes like an off night thing because we're gonna have 26 eye levels over what the actual raid requires. So
Yeah. It'll be interesting. I mean, maybe it's like you eventually get to it, right?
yeah, but it's definitely there is no way that we're only doing it on faded weeks, right? Because it's
Yeah.
you'll get 1/3 as many mounts that way, and we don't know how long we have until Dragonflight, and don't want to end up like, hey, Dragonflight's next month, and we're like, oh crap, we still need 10 mounts. We only have 4 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, I know our team, we're going to prioritize at least getting the Anduin skip. So I think we need one more week. Like this week will be the week that we get it coming
Yeah,
up.
we'll get the
Um,
Anduin skip this week.
Yeah, and we'll prioritize that this week and really on Tuesday just to see, like, we'll see from other guilds what Nathria looks like on Faded
Yeah,
and see if it's worth even going in. But we'll probably dabble a little bit, like for half our raid night, maybe. So
yeah.
we'll see.
More about Faded, I think, in a bit. But yeah, where being a weekend guild has its perks, we're going to be watching and seeing what happens on Tuesday, knowing that we have until
Yeah,
Friday for things to get fixed.
I know I'm jealous, to be fair,
You could
of
raid
that.
weekends too.
Maybe. We'll see. We'll see. So cool. So then so that's all on season 3 stuff ending. Get your achievements if you can, your titles. If not, sorry. Those season 4 stuff that you can collect. Next up is actually a brand new off the presses announcement. Blizzard is hosting what they're calling a WoW variety show on Twitch on August 24th. And it's like just an announcement. But basically what it looks like is there's going to be 4 teams of celebrities, one celebrity on each team, and then like a bunch of random people. So like you or I could sign up, or anybody who's listening,
Yeah.
and you'll go through a set of like tasks. So it looks like it's leveling. So a race to level with like probably certain things you have to do mixed in. A scavenger hunt. So maybe like finding things in the world. So like going to like a part of the world and trying to find something. And then a
Yep.
foot race, so an on-ground mount race through Azeroth, which
Yep.
seems fun.
If you've
Um,
seen the running of the gnomes, there's going to be
yeah.
some similarities there. I feel like.
Yeah. So it looks like it's only open to North America folks to start with. So with this first one. Um but it seems like a cool, weird event they're putting on from like a community perspective. So um, yeah, it seems like it's fun. So it's basically your four captains plus four additional people on each team. So there's basically 16 spots for your non-celebrities to join. So um, seems like a fun little event. So that's it'll be on August 24th on a Wednesday. Could be cool to check out.
Yeah,
I don't know, these like weird extra things seem like fun stuff for like them to put on. Um, it seems like season 4 is like they're like, hey, we're just having fun for a couple months, not take the game too seriously, which
yeah,
kind of nice. I'll say for like an end of expansion thing.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
because like
It's
typically like you're, or sorry,
oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say typically like the only end of expansion fun stuff is that pre-patch area where it's like you
Yeah,
get all the power or all the nerfs from like going into the next expansion. And so like you have 2 weeks to have fun and like the next expansion starts and you'll
yeah,
level and leave the old content. This way we get like at least a couple weeks, couple months to mess around. So
yeah, yeah.
should
Yeah.
be cool.
I have no idea what to expect from that reality show or variety show beyond. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see.
I think it'll be cool. I think it'll end up being pretty cool. So um and cool. And then I guess the last thing in our last week's news before we get to the main topic of season 4 is you mentioned they did release a bunch of talent trees, not a bunch, but they used talent trees for mages, and then
Yeah.
2 of the 3 paladin specs. So Prot and Rhett got theirs. Holy still not out. Um, but yeah, I think you said you had a chance to mess around with the paladin a little bit.
Yeah, I've done some dungeons with it. I've done a bunch of testing, playing around with different builds. Because this is closer to my wheelhouse than basically any of the other talent trees we've gotten. Um, because Paladin has been like my secondary tank for multiple expansions now. Um,
Yeah,
and I will say there are, I think, some issues. Like, there's a lot of new stuff in the tree. There's a lot of not yet implemented stuff, like this one. After you spend one holy power, your next word of glory echoes on a nearby ally at 30% effectiveness. Numbers subject to change, um, but also just completely unimplemented. So there's a number of talents like that in the tree right now. There's a few that are giving far too much like cooldown reduction. Like this one right here, Righteous Protector, is instantly resetting the cooldown of Avenging Wrath and Guardian of Ancient Kings because it actually is giving 500 seconds off of the cooldown, zero point
wow.
0.5. Um, so yeah, just a number of things like that, and then like we've seen this a little bit with a couple of other classes where there are rank twos of spells that didn't get baked into the like just the version of it that you learn. So like Avenger
Right.
Shield is missing its interrupt right now because that's part of the rank two. There's a couple other rank twos like that as well. And then some actual changes to like the core of the class. Specifically, Avenger Shield doesn't give holy power anymore, which completely like changes a number of different talents. Like Divine's Toll gets much worse when it doesn't give you. We've got Divine Toll on the tree right over here for Protection Paladins. It doesn't give you 5 holy power like it does on live. So that's a
Yeah.
pretty significant nerf to that ability. And it also puts pressure on you to take things like Crusader's Judgment, even on AoE. Crusader's Judgment is primarily a single target like talent right now. But without this talent, you don't get holy power from your Avenger Shield resets with Grand Crusader. So there's some things like that. There's a lot of very interesting stuff, some stuff I'm excited about. Like there's a talent that makes your Avenger Shield deal damage to all the targets around it. Um, and each hit of the Avenger Shield does that. So if you take this and the talent right below it that gives you 2 extra targets on your Avenger Shield jumps, then
Mhm.
you hit like 5 targets, and if they're all stacked, they all hit each other. This. And like right now the
Oh
numbers on
wow.
it are like a little bit low, but we've seen this kind of effect be extremely good before. The fact that the Avenger Shield
Uh-huh.
is target capped makes it fairly safe. Like the last time we saw this, it was an enhancement shaman thing with their fire totem that was like every target hitting every other target. So if you had 20 targets, you're like every enemy in the pack is getting hit 20 times. That's not how it's going to work with Avenger Shield because you're just only getting 5 hits every time. Um,
Right. Yeah.
but it's still like super good, uh, right now at least. Um, but yeah, so there's definitely some issues to be worked out. Uh, but we will have to see how things play out, especially once they get some of the bug fixes in.
Yeah.
Um, there was a blue post about a couple of things like confirming that the rank twos are going to be coming back for the most part. So things like the Avenger
Okay.
Shield interrupt is confirmed to be coming back, and it's just a bug that it's not in right now, as well as
Gotcha.
confirming a design change for Protection Paladins going forward, where like in Shadowlands they have 100% uptime on Avengers on Shield of the Righteous. Um,
Uh-huh.
that is explicitly not a goal for
Oh,
Dragonflight. They're going to be I think the Blue Post put the I don't remember what the target is. It's going to be like 60% or something, right? It's going to be up a significant
gotcha.
portion of the time, but the idea is kind of the same thing where in BFA Brewmaster had Iron Skin Brew that was just like a maintenance buff and was
Yeah.
very annoying and not very fun. Um, they're trying to prevent Protection Paladin from becoming that, I think. Uh, so trying to make it
Gotcha.
so you have your passive, uh, like your defensive, like kind of passive stuff come from actually like passive or button press stuff, like Consecration. And then Shield of the Righteous being more like having more. We'll see if they succeed, but that's the idea.
Interesting. Interesting. Well, that's cool. I mean, is like the consensus that the tree is like decent? Like it's a good starting point as a tree, or is there like some, I mean, other than what you
I
just mentioned, there's
honestly
some like
couldn't tell you. There's some
gotcha.
like there's just a bunch of stuff still that is broken. It
Gotcha.
just makes it really difficult to tell. There's some weirdness where like the three capstones for Protection Paladin, um, one of them feels like it probably just I don't know feels very boring to me. The second one is Eye of Tyr, which if you don't remember that was their Legion artifact ability,
Yeah.
and it's just a 1 minute like 25% damage reduction. It does some damage. And then the third capstone is Divine Toll, which got heavily nerfed by the removal of uh, Holy Power from Avenger Shield. So,
Gotcha.
like right now, especially well, there's I think two things. One, with the lower uptime on Shield of the Righteous, I feel like Eye of Tyr is just like mandatory pretty much 100% of the time. Like unless
Gotcha.
you're on a fight where you're just not tanking that often, you just always have to take Eye of Tyr to cover gaps in your
Mhm.
mitigation. Um, and then that also puts you in a situation where currently you can't take multiple capstones. So
Right.
that
Yeah.
just means, I mean, actually, so no, sorry, back that up. You can't on PTR right now or on Alpha right now because you're level 60. Uh, but with the extra talents from reaching level 70, you'll be able to get like two capstones,
So yeah.
or like you'll be able to pick up like Eye of Tyr and Divine Toll, for example. Maybe not the
Uh-huh.
Divine Toll upgrade, but you know, it just puts you in a situation where you're basically always taking that one capstone and very rarely taking the other capstones. So I don't know. That is
Gotcha.
something that is also going to depend on numbers because it could also be that your passive defensives are just good enough that you don't need Eye of Tyr, and then that problem goes. But if Eye of Tyr is like super important for your Mythic Plus mitigation,
Gotcha. Gotcha. Interesting. Interesting. Well, that's cool. I mean, it sounds like some good is there. Interesting that they got ahead of some of like I guess the design decision stuff for Paladin. So
yeah,
um yeah, hopefully um hopefully it turns out. I think we'll see the monk trees this week, right? Per my
for your
you know,
prediction, Monk Trees are tomorrow.
per my predictions. So it'll be good to see like what they say about those. I will say, I hope that monks or really any class is getting the same treatment hunters are with their like now I think it's up to 9 blue posts and like
Yeah,
2 major redesigns of like their talent trees at this point. Or
yeah.
maybe not major redesigns is the wrong way
I mean,
to
I
phrase it, but
think
like
I think like the survival tree
large.
from what I was
Yeah.
from the people I was talking to needed major redesign. That one was like
Yeah.
fundamentally had major issues. I don't think the Paladin one is like in the fundamental major issues territory. It's just got a lot of
Gotcha.
things that are like Um, like there are a couple places you could like reduce point costs and it would be better by a lot, and a couple places where it's just like I can't evaluate this right now because something is broken, and then a bunch of places
Right.
where it's like this entirely depends on what the numbers are, whether you need to take this or not, because of the like if we're not expecting to have 100% shield of the righteous uptime, maybe I don't need Eye of Tear. Maybe the other talents are good enough to make up for it, or maybe I do need Eye of Tear, and that's just how it plays. Kind of like Protection Warrior covering shield block downtime with
Yeah.
defensive CDs. So hard to say.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Um, well, cool. Anything else on the paladin tree from your side?
No, I did some dungeons as Protection Paladin on Alpha, and I will say, if you go and you try it, just take IF tier. Like you'll be tempted to take other things. Go straight down, get IF tier, and then you can go over and get like Soaring Shield and ignore Divine Toll. Bait right now, don't get it. Once they add the interrupt
Fair
back, it'll
enough.
have at least like a niche of like mass AoE silence.
Yeah,
But for now, just go for Eye of Tear and Soaring Shield, and you'll be fine.
that's hilarious. All right, it's cool. Cool. And yeah, like we said, I think the other talent tree that came out last week was mages. I don't have anything to say about them. Um,
They're keeping a bunch of their legendaries. Multiple. I think I saw at least two of the Covenant
okay.
abilities, but beyond that, not a lot to say.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, cool. Well, any other news from last week before we jump into sort of some of the season 4
Oh, there is one
info?
thing. There's one thing,
Okay.
and this kind of goes into the season 4 info.
All right.
WarcraftLogs is capping external buffs season 4.
Ooh, okay, okay.
So
What's the cap?
basically, the cap is for each of the 4 major external buffs that are available in retail right now. You can get them effectively from one source, and it's
Okay.
very like it's not a super strict cap because we were dropping this like on Friday, right? Like there's not very much time for people to plan around it with Tuesday being so soon. Um,
Yeah.
but it is going to mean that the logs that people meme about with like 70 externals will not get rankings anymore. And this is not like a permanent change per se. Like
Right.
it's a change that we could make in time for season 4, just because it was super clear that people wanted us to do something about
Gotcha.
like feeding people externals, but we couldn't do any of the more like technically challenging ones in time. And there's other factors to consider for something like a bunch of people wanted us to just outright ban like PI and stuff like that. Like you don't rank at all if you get
Yeah.
power infusion and you're not a priest, or like if you get a power infusion that's not your own. Um,
Yeah.
and there's a bunch of like really questionable knock-on effects of doing that. So
Right. Yeah. Well, I saw Kira's his tweet about it, which was basically like people want us to like create two like leaderboards essentially, but then also they don't they wanted to like outlaw like just power infusion. So he's like a bunch of people want us to sit in the middle, which then maybe affects site performance because we have to run the calculation essentially twice, right?
yeah, yeah,
So you guys just ended up capping it. Interesting.
yeah.
Cool.
I mean, for now we ended up capping it because it's just like
It's
this
quick and
option
easy, right?
was
Yeah.
not that hard to implement. We didn't have to worry like in a progression environment, it is generally not correct to put multiple power infusions on the same target because they don't stack with each other. You can't have like 2 power infusions once. They
Right.
refresh and extend the buff. So if you get power infusion while you have power infusion, you get power infusion for longer, but it's not really stacking it that way. Um, so it's basically not correct to put multiple power infusions on the same target at the same time. But
Right.
it would be correct in some scenarios to be like power infusion plus blessing of autumn on the same target at the same time. That would be really good for a mage, for example.
Right.
So if you were like having your mage do like some super big combustions, then that's a completely valid way to progress a boss. Um, so we didn't for this season. We're like, well, we can try this small thing of capping it, We don't want the cap to be 0 because that has implications.
Right.
But the cap is basically that you can get it from one.
Oh, nice. I mean, I think it makes sense, right? In terms of like because the key thing I think people are always worried about is their ranking, right? So like
Yeah.
the idea is if you're a better player than another player in the like you show that by having a very equal playing field and everybody can have at least one of these external buffs, right? Assigned to
Yeah.
them.
So I mean, it's power infusion basically doesn't matter. Like these externals do not matter for percentile ranks. So if you're looking at your parse percentile, power infusion has very minimal impact on the cutoffs for each percentile. Very minimal impacts. Unless you have like a huge majority of the class or the spec getting externals, which is maybe the one case where that's true is demonology warlocks right now.
Right, yeah.
But for everything else, like there's so many parses that do not have externals. They are by far like the default. Like so outside of like the top 100, your parse percentile is really not impacted by being like having a well, okay. I guess let me rephrase this. If you currently have, let's say, an 88, if we removed all of the PI parses, you would be not very likely to go up further than like 289, right?
Right, yeah.
But if you have an 88 and you got PI, then you would probably go up further because you would go up to like a 92 or 93 just kind of for free for having the external. So
Right.
it's like power infusion and stuff like that is way overblown. It's way
Gotcha.
overblown. But it
Fair enough.
is very unpopular. Very so I would
Fair
not
enough.
I would not expect the parse percentiles for virtually anyone to be significantly different in season 4. The only
Gotcha.
difference will be in like the top 100. We won't have these like 70. There's one that's like over 100 externals on somebody on like a Mythic Vigilant Guardian Kill or something.
I saw that, yeah.
Yeah. So that's the major impact is that just those won't be the case. It is going to make it slightly easier if you're someone that can already compete for a top 100 parse, like you're capable of doing that on your own.
Mm.
It makes the playing field, it makes it much more accessible to actually do that because most people can find a single person to PI them. It is much
Right,
harder to
yeah.
find 2 or 3. And you do see a number of parses in the top 100 that are, power infuses.
Gotcha. Interesting. Well, I mean, it'll be interesting to see how it all plays out, but it sounds like, yeah, it really only will affect like the outliers, which like typical WoW things affects maybe like 1% of the total population, but
Yeah.
everybody else gets up in arms about it. So
Yeah. And like,
eh,
we were somewhat careful in putting these together. It should be hard. That's the other thing about like hard banning PIs. It makes it possible to just like remove someone's ranks by just throwing a PI on them. Doesn't matter if it's at a good
right,
time
yeah.
or not. If you throw a PI on them and we outright ban PI, then you don't get a rank anymore because someone trolled you. And that's not like a major concern, but it is something that would happen and we have to deal with. The way we have it set up with the caps, it should be relatively difficult to basically need like 2 priests cooperating to troll someone.
Gotcha. Fair enough. That's good. That's good news. It's good news. I do have 2 priests in my raid, so we
Yeah,
could start
we do
trolling
as
some of our
well.
DPS.
So
So
they could like do some protection money stuff like, hey, you're doing pretty good tonight. Give us 100 grand and we won't PI you. You know, it's possible. It's possible, but
exactly.
it's a lot less likely than if we just like banned PI. So
Yeah.
that's why for season 4 we just did like a thing we could actually do in the weekend and not.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean it's what we're doing for Dragonflight. No idea what we're doing for Dragonflight still, but uh, the options that people really wanted, we definitely couldn't do for season 4.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean the two separate partitions just seems like a massive, like even just technical undertaking versus yeah.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of engineering work to make that happen.
Yeah. Seems unfun and also a lot of money. So to
Wow.
support.
Well, we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. Awesome. Um well cool. Any other final things before we jump into season 4? Okay. Well, so season 4 is Tuesday, tomorrow in North America and Wednesday in Europe, and then I think Thursday in Asia.
Yep.
Um, and so Blizzard finally released a bunch of information. Their treasure trove information came out late, actually like on Friday, I think,
Yeah.
last week. And then it was like the full patch notes, and I think we can touch on a couple things. I think we should touch on a couple things there, but they did release the full patch notes along with sort of a like abbreviated FAQ almost of like what's happening in season. So
Right.
in the patch notes was actually the faded powers finally. So these were data mined, but I don't think we ever got the full description of them.
Yeah.
Um, which is a set, and it's still unsure of like how these apply if there's one of these for the week or if there's one per fight
Yeah.
or how it works. But basically the faded powers are a new mechanic you have to do during the fight that increases the power of either your entire raid or like a small subset of players who are interacting with the mechanic, basically.
Yeah.
Um,
So I think uh, from what I was looking at these, basically all of them are buffs to your whole raid. So like if we look at um, reconfiguration emitter, an enemy appears which
mhm.
continually casts, inflicting cosmic damage to all players is successful. Over time, this enemy gains energy and increased damage done. When defeated, grants a faded infusion, which increases mastery, critical strike, versatility, and avoidance based on the enemy's energy. So this is something like the ads on Lords of Dread, where you just let it sit there casting for a while
Yep.
and then kill it for value. And as far as like, I mean, obviously the tooltip is not super specific, but it does seem like this would be something that would impact the entire raid. It would give this buff to the
Yeah.
whole raid. It would be like a super bloodlust or whatever. Um, the exception appears to be Creation Spark. So
Yeah. Just like soaking.
targeted players become charged with cosmic damage over time. When this magic dispellable aura is removed, Creation Sparks fly off and impact the ground. This can explode if no player is there to catch it, but if they do, they are rewarded with a powerful faded infusion, increasing the flow of time and the movement speed of any player within the radius. So this seems like there's a lot here that depends on if like is this circle like huge? Is it going to be like a big bear like meteor like SLG
Yeah.
meteor that you just have to catch and you like get your whole raid in it and you just like all go nuts? Or is it going to be like the Anduin catching in Mythic, where you like have this tiny little puddle that just somebody has to soak,
Right.
and
Yeah.
those are a lot different. It's going to be really annoying if it's very small puddles, because then it's going to be like, oh, I mean, who gets to catch the creation spark?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Or like, I mean, or do you just like all stack up and dispel it and it just lands right on top of the group? That might be like the easiest way
Yeah,
to do it, right?
yeah,
So the chaotic essence seems interesting too. Um, in terms of it just like spawning more and more ads. So it's almost like the massacre bonus from Diablo 3,
yeah.
where like
There's also, so there's some of the chests, right, that you like
oh
interact
yeah,
with the
the
chest and
events,
it
yeah.
starts spawning enemies, and the more enemies you kill, the more enemies spawn, and then you get like at the end how much you get from the chest depends on how many enemies you killed.
Exactly, yeah. Yeah. So the essences seem cool. I mean, it looks like they're just generally going to be like damage increases or like even like just power increases we can call them, right?
Yeah.
Um to the raid. It's just again, we don't know how they apply, right? It's like is it only creation spark in week 1 or is it creation spark in like just for like the first boss and then like the second boss is like a different one of these affixes, so or
Yeah.
powers, I'm sorry. So I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Um
I don't know. I actually kind of feel like some of these are going to be a lot harder on certain bosses than others.
Mhm.
Kind of like Mythic plus Affixes. Like imagine if you get these enemies that spawn during the Kel'Thuzad phase, where like half your raid's upstairs, half your raid's downstairs, and you have to
So
like
awful.
line up the damage checks on those so that they both push out at the same time, so that the raid doesn't die. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, it's like that seems like a really bad time for some enemy ad to spawn. Whereas like the chaotic spark or the creation spark, you can just wait to dispel it until the phase ends, and then dispel it, and everybody catches it. That's
Yeah. I mean, I guess we'll see once Tuesday rolls around, but yeah, it'll be interesting to how they apply these. And then of course there's like the new currency like surrounding these sort of affixes too.
yep,
Basically faded raids. Now I think you have to kill, what is it, 10? I forget. There's a number of bosses you have to kill. So you get a sorry, let's start back.
yeah,
You get a quest when you enter the first faded raid to kill a number of bosses. I think it's 20 the first time. I think it's 20, 15, 10.
yeah,
But
something like
after you
that.
kill 20 faded bosses, you'll get a currency, one item, that'll allow you to buy any trinket or weapon from the 3 raids, basically.
Yeah,
Um, and you only get 3 of those for the entire season, but you basically, I think they say by like week 4 or 3 or 4, you'll have your 3 currency and you'll be able to buy any weapon or trinket just to like fill holes in your gearing.
yeah,
That's the new Dinar currency.
yeah.
Um, and then
Um,
along with that, oh sorry, what were you saying?
they need to be unique bosses, so you can't do
Oh yeah,
like normal and heroic and get 20 in the first week. You need to kill 10 unique bosses for Castle Nathria, for example. You want to kill Freakwing on at least one difficulty and Huntsman on at least one difficulty. That does mean, like, if you're in a Mythic Raiding Guild, unless you literally have exactly 20 people, you're not, like, going to get all 10 from every person in
right.
in Mythic. So you're going to have to do heroic or normal in order to get those last couple of kills for those people. Um,
Yeah, exactly.
which
Yep.
is fine. Like it's a little bit annoying, but it's gonna be fine, especially since it's only going to last for the first like 3 weeks, 4 weeks,
Yeah,
and that's kind of lines up with when you would naturally stop doing heroic for general upgrades anyway. Like we would typically do, well, obviously Sepulcher was different. We did heroic Sepulcher for like I don't know a month and a half, however long
yeah,
it took us
yeah.
to
It was a
finish getting
while.
tier sets.
Yeah, yeah. It took a while, and then along with that currency, there'll be another thing that drops called like ciphers, I guess they're called confounding ciphers, where you'll only get them from heroic and mythic bosses.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get 20 of them, they'll basically allow you to create an item that can update a faded item to the next difficulty.
Not just the
Right. So like
next difficulty, but it can skip over one. So if you get 20 of the mythic
that's true.
ones, you can apply it to a normal item and get a mythic item.
Yeah. Which is a nice way to like easily upgrade your gear if you like you get it to drop on heroic 1 week and then
Yeah.
don't see it again on mythic, you can easily upgrade it, which is nice. So,
Yeah, and that's something where like I had 2 heroic Bane Rippers for all of Sanctum. I never got a mythic one. Um and so this would have actually been really nice because I had plenty of boss kills. I would
yeah.
have been able to turn both of those into mythic ones. Um but obviously couldn't because it didn't exist there. This is actually something that I would really like. I don't think we're gonna keep Dinar in Dragonflight.
Yeah.
I don't think they're going to do that during like at least the regular progression. I would like to keep these like upgrade items. I think that's a really nice way of being able to say like, oh, you can take your Vein Ripper or Sylvanas Dagger or whatever it is, and you can turn it into a mythic one eventually by just
Yeah.
like doing the raid on the higher difficulty.
Yeah, I mean, I I think in my mind the number might have to increase, right? Because 20 boss kills.
But you have to do mythic boss kills to do the upgrade.
Yeah, that's true. Maybe, I mean, I think it would depend on how big the raid is, right? Like you'd want to
Yeah,
settle around like a 2 or 3 week time
Yeah.
period. That way you get at least 2 full clears of trying to get the item, and then you can upgrade it from an old one.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be a nice sort of addition to the game to just smooth out like items you'd want to get that you only ever got on a lower difficulty and just easily upgrade them, right?
Yep.
Um, would be nice. The other thing too about faded raids is actually the world bosses associated with each raid will be faded too. So
Yep.
not for like if you're a mythic raider, this isn't helpful, but like if you're gearing an ult, and it's faded Nathria, go back and kill the old world bosses in the 4 zones, right?
Yeah, so
The original
Nathria
4
is
zones.
actually the best for that because there are 4 world bosses. Um,
Yeah.
the other 2 raids only have a single world boss that's faded. Um, but I mean, something, I guess. There's a little quirk actually in all of this. So the eye level for everything is going up as well. It is going up by just a standard amount for a new raid tier. So it's going up.
Mhm.
The mythic items are 26 item levels higher than the current mythic items. The LFR requirements for faded raid are also higher.
Yeah, that's true
Uh,
actually.
and they're actually higher to a point that you can't just gear into it by buying stuff from Zereth Mortis or doing Zereth Mortis questing.
I didn't
You
realize they didn't upgrade the eye level of that stuff. Interesting.
Oh, so if you buy all the
Wow.
Sandsworn gear and stuff like that, you will be too low island level to enter LFR. So you
Oh
need to get
Jesus.
some gear from either Mythic Dungeons. You don't need to do Mythic Plus, but Mythic Dungeons, um, or from doing world bosses in order to actually enter LFR. And of course, you can do like the old LFR zones. So you can go into LFR
Gotcha.
Sepulcher when it's not faded, which is interesting. Um, but yeah, that's kind of funny that like even if you max out with like 291 legendaries and all the sandstorm gear that you can equip and a crafted item and all of this, you end up like 3 or 4 item levels short of entering
Oh
LFR faded.
Jesus. I didn't realize that. That's funny. That's rough. Um, well,
At
he's got to
least,
at least raid or do a little bit of Mythic Plus to close
yeah,
those gaps.
yeah. We that's based on I think what the number currently is on PTR, which like PTR is missing things and some things are different. For example,
Hmm.
the Castle Nathria weapons do not have a faded equivalent on PTR right now. Like if you go to the Kyrian vendor where you would go to get your mythic item from Castle Nathria back in the day, you can't buy a faded version right now. But Scarazar did confirm on Twitter that you will be able to when it actually releases. So, um, like a little bit of a grain of salt there, but I did think it was kind of funny to know the LFR
Yeah,
situation.
that's funny. Yeah. Well, I mean, speaking of LFR, if we want to go around the achievements for this, right?
Yeah.
um, which is causing some issues. But there is a set of achievements for clearing the raid, right? So there's a mount you can get, there's a title, and if you do it all mythic, you actually get portals to each mythic raid, similar to the dungeon, like the mythic plus portals.
Yep.
Um, but there is one thing where like certain items will actually not drop in LFR. Actually, I think the currency for the dinar doesn't drop in LFR.
No,
Was
there's
what they were saying.
the
Is that it?
upgrade. You don't get upgrade items for LFR or normal.
Oh, right.
The Dinar vendor um gives normal eye level items. So you need the upgrade currency to turn it into like a mythic version. I think is the reason
Gotcha.
for that. Um don't know if the Dinar stuff works in LFR. I would assume it
Yeah, I think
does.
that
The
no, I
big
think that
thing
was
that
the
oh sorry.
I was saying that was the issue on that was up in arms is that I think the
It's the
quest line says
slime
you can
cat
kill.
mount.
Oh, yeah,
Slime
the slime.
you
Yeah, the
cannot
mounts.
so there's a mount. It's a slime cat. I don't have a picture handy, but people like it. It is only
Pretty
obtainable by
dope.
doing normal or higher difficulty,
Hell yeah.
which I think is fine. I think that's perfectly fine.
No
Um,
issues here.
but people got up in arms because it's like they can't get it on LFR. I don't I don't see that as an issue personally. There's long precedence of like raid mounts you need to do at least heroic. So this being available from normal is like
Yeah.
a a step beyond that, which I think is also fine, right? But yeah, you can't get that from LFR. I think Asmongold made a video complaining about it.
Yeah, which is like, I think it's the text. The problem is the text of the actual achievement that goes along with this. It's basically just complete all 3 faded raids,
Yeah,
but it doesn't give you like a level to do them, right? And technically
yeah,
doing them in LFR is completing them, I guess is the idea. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I'm not too concerned about it. Like even if I was an LFR only player, like if I really, particularly if it's like if I'm the type of player that's very like I hate using the word casual because I think people think it's a bad thing, but like if I don't care about pushing like top end content, right? I just sort of play the game at my own speed, do what I want. If I really wanted something, I'd probably do what I needed to get it,
yeah,
right? And so if that meant doing normal raids,
yeah. And like normal
find a
raids
couple groups.
are not difficult enough that you need to have a guild or consistent team to do
Yeah,
them. You can definitely just do bugs to do them, and it might be a little bit difficult to get into it. Like I spent a lot of time on my mage this season, uh, trying to pug raids, and until you can get higher eye level than the raid drops, it's pretty difficult to get into the raid. But
yeah,
you can definitely do it. I did a ton of pugging this season, and that's I think the main catch is that pugging as a DPS is often a very slow and frustrating experience. Just because of the fact that
sure.
so many people want to play DPS and so few people comparatively want to play tank or healer or know what to do when they do.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So there was a little bit of, I think, drama around that this week, but or weekend, I guess you could say. But no, I mean it's the mount does look really cool. I'm excited to get it. The portals or whatever, but we'll probably end up clearing everything on Mythic anyway, so I'll get them. I don't know, the portals never really like I'm gonna get summoned to raids anyway, so it's like, why don't I need a portal?
It will
You
actually
know?
be nice for me because I'm one of the ones that actually goes to the raid instance. I
Oh,
hadn't
you're
really
one of the
thought
good
about
ones.
this too much, um, but this is going to be usable starting like week 4. You know, we're going to go through
Yeah.
the first rotation. We're going to get our portal unlock in theory, with how it
Hmm.
hopefully. We're going to get our portal unlock, and then we get to just teleport to the raid.
Yeah.
It's going to be kind of nice.
It'll be pretty fun just to sort of get right there.
Yeah, yeah. I get to experience what it is like the anomaly.
Exactly. Well, yeah, because well, the problem is I bet you it puts you outside the raid. Typically, I'm just summoned directly inside, so I
Yeah,
don't even
yeah.
deal with
See,
the
you're
extra
gonna
loading screen, you know?
you're gonna be like, yeah, okay, I'll take my portal, guys. Okay, now summon me from here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's too far to
Exactly.
walk.
It's too much work here. Too much work. If you want my services, I have to be summoned in.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I think that's most of what we know about well, I guess the other thing around the raid before we move, because there's a whole bunch of other stuff that they did, but they did release along with this a bunch of um, updates to trinkets within the raids, I guess you could say. So they went through and provided buffs and nerfs to a bunch of different trinkets and a couple of weapons throughout all 3 raids. So Sanctum, Nathria, and Sepulcher all got updates and changes to trinkets. I can tell you from a healer perspective, none of them materially changed anything.
yeah,
Genesis Lathe, still a terrible weapon.
yep.
The actual healer trinkets are still they're slightly better than they were, but they're not going to change the general ranking of where they were back then. So the
There.
one nice thing though,
Oh,
sorry,
go ahead.
I was going to say the one nice thing is that the legendary bow and rogue daggers from both from Sylvanas, right?
Yes,
Um, have an increased drop rate, which is nice for your hunters and rogues. So
yes. There's also the there's going to be an item on one of the vendors that you can take if you already have the Sylvanas bow. You can go and upgrade it to normal eye level, aka 285. Um, just kind of for free. So if you've already got one, you get one for next season, kind of to start with. Um, what that also means is you like the legendary bow drop didn't get removed. So if you're making a new hunter, you could go and run Sanctum on non-faded, and then take your legendary bow from that and turn it into a 285.
Oh
So,
yeah.
um, pretty much every hunter is gonna have this bow, which is fine. It's cool. It's a legendary. It's awesome. Um,
Yeah.
I'm going to actually get one. Probably, I'm gonna try and get one on my hunter. My hunter was like my main before I played monk, but try and get one on my hunter.
Nice, nice. Yeah,
Uh,
I won't be playing my hunter.
yeah. Oh.
I think the last time I played my hunter seriously was when they released the Beast Mastery upgrades, where you could tame raid bosses.
Yes.
And I went in and tamed Chromagus in Blackwing Lair. That's about the
Yes.
last time I played that character. So, oh wait, no, and I got the bows from the
Sun
from the
Elemental.
Mage Tower.
Oh,
No,
okay.
from the
Yeah.
Mage Tower.
Yeah.
Got those skins for the for the artifact weapons. So yeah,
Um,
hunters. Yeah.
but I don't think there are very many in the way of like meaningful tank changes either for these trinket updates. The most relevant one definitely is they updated the Zymox trinket from Sepulcher. Pulsating Rift
Okay.
Shard damage and absorption increased by 10%, and Rift Portal charge time reduced to 1.5 seconds. Was 3 seconds. That second bit of text is actually super important for making the trinket usable at all. Because like before, like the way this trinket works is it puts down like if you've done Zymox in either Castle Nathria uh or in Sepulcher, there's the beams that like spawn and there's
Hmm.
like they hang out for a second and they shoot whatever is standing in them. That's what this trinket is. It's one of those. So this would put one down, and then 3 seconds later it would do damage, and it would shield you for an amount equal to damage, or not equal to, but like based on the damage that you dealt or number of targets hit or
Right.
whatever. Um, 3 seconds is actually just kind of a long time.
That's huge
Like
amount of
if you're
time.
trying to get a shield from this trinket as a tank, you don't want to like push it and then 3 seconds later get the shield. Even
Yeah.
1.5 seconds is kind of pushing it, but it is significantly better. And with this may end up being kind of like the replacement for scale, because we're not going to be able to get a new higher eye level uh,
Right.
blood spattered scale because the other side will no longer be part of the Mythic Plus rotation.
Gotcha. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, the like I said, the healer trinket changes they're good, but
Yeah.
the trinkets are still bad.
I think the more relevant ones actually are the trinket nerfs, specifically Old
Yeah.
Warrior Soul, which is currently being used on Mythic Jailer by like with it still being at Mythic Sylvanas eye level. Um,
Yeah.
and Inscrutable Quantum Device is getting a 25% nerf. Just to really make sure that you're not using a like 278 one from your vault in season 4, because
Right.
you won't
Yeah.
be able to get one of those starting in season 4. They want to make sure that that's not a problem.
Yeah. It's funny when I was doing rank like of my WoW head updates or whatever. If you have 278 versions of like Changeling and Ruby, at least for Mistweaver, they're not terrible trinkets, right? Like
Yeah,
they're still usable until you get really a lot of the raid trinkets that drop it at Mythic Island level, but they're like weirdly up there. Like
they're
yeah,
really over budget, especially
yeah,
if you can get your changeling to like switch to the mode that gives you all 3 stats at once.
yes, yep,
Yeah.
yep. Very good, very good. Um, well, cool. I guess speaking of Changeling and Mythic Plus stuff, we do get the updated Mythic Plus seasonal stuff coming in. There's a new seasonal affix called Shrouded. It's super boring, but the idea is at the start of a dungeon, you select one of 4 buffs you want. So do you want crit, haste, verse, or mastery? And then throughout the dungeon, there are Nethrezim infiltrators that you kill, and you gain a stack of that buff. So it's sort of like pick your best stat and move forward. It's not too exciting.
I will note they nerfed the versatility one. You get half as much versatility as you do from the other
Yeah,
stats. And that is specifically to make sure it doesn't devolve into just everybody always taking, because there's always just damage going out.
exactly. I think that nerf actually too puts versatility as like almost like a trap option, right?
Yeah,
Because at this point,
I
you're only going to end up getting it to like 5 or 6%. It
yeah,
seems like.
I honestly would have rather they just like removed versatility from the options, which
Yeah.
would kind of suck because like if you're playing a tank, you would normally want to pick versatility. Um,
Uh,
like you would want to pick versatility in its unnerfed state pretty much every single time for every single tank,
yeah.
except for blood decay case. But that's that they nerfed it so significantly feels kind of bad. Like you're gonna have people that pick first and don't realize it, and they get to the end of the key and they got like no value from the affix.
Yeah. They got like 6 or 7% verse. You're like, great. That's nothing.
Yeah,
So,
and then the people getting haste are like, yeah, look at me, I'm doing
yeah.
significantly more than you because of the like double stats that I got compared to you. Um,
Yeah.
but it's honestly even with the ones that aren't nerfed, not that much stats. It's like
Yeah.
15% if you get all of the infiltrators, which you probably won't be getting all of them. You'll probably getting like a good chunk of them, like 50% of them. There's 40, you can get up to 40 stacks of the bot. The way it
Yeah.
works is that there are regular enemies in the pack that will turn into Nathrezim infiltrators, which will be kind of nice when it replaces one of the hard mobs with an easy one. Um,
Yeah.
and then there will also be a kind of big version of it, kind of like the big ads from last season's Affix, where you had like Tin Can Man that would be somewhere in the dungeon.
Vi. I don't even know their names anymore.
Yeah. Um, and so this one is bigger. It does the kind of like buff at the end. Only the healing bit though, not the cooldown reduction, and it gives 5 stacks.
Yep.
So I think there's like one of those and then 35 others. You're probably not getting 40 stacks every pull or every dungeon though, but you'll probably end up getting 20 to 30 in virtually every run.
Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. Which is, I mean, it's like I said, it's not the most exciting affix, but I think the more exciting part is really the fact that we get what 6 new dungeons, right?
Yeah.
Um, which I think is awesome. So with this update, they basically removed all the Shadowlands dungeons but Tazavesh, so you'll get Tazavesh Streets and Gambit as two in the rotation for Mythic Plus this season. But then joining them are the Mechagon dungeons, two of
Yep.
those, Karazhan, upper and lower, and then Iron Docks and Grimrail Depot, which Grimrail, so excited. So excited.
I can tell.
um,
Um
but no, I think it was really cool to like. So from my point of view, to be fair, like I actually really like Mechagon dungeons. I think
yeah.
both of them are really fun to do.
So
Karazhan too is fun. So
yeah, it's going to be really weird doing the Mechagon dungeons without the final seasonal affix of BFA. The the
yeah,
the one that let you skip all over the place.
exactly. Yeah,
There were some
particularly outside. Yeah,
really zany like outer Mechagon routes or junkyard routes, whatever it's called, where you like
yeah,
were zigzagging the map with these portals. Like you would go and you would set up a portal and you would take it back the other way, and
yeah.
like it was it was crazy. And you're not gonna be able to do that anymore because you won't have that affix, and the new one doesn't give you a way to do skips.
Right. So it'll be a little bit more maybe linear, straightforward, but still fun to go back. I mean, Karazhan will be fun to go back to.
Yeah,
That's still one of my favorite like raid, like just straight up raids. Not even like the dungeon that we'll end up doing.
yeah,
Um, and then Iron Docks and Grimrail will be interesting. Um, to go back to WAD to those two specifically. So the
yeah.
funny thing is, so sorry, the well, you don't like Grimrail. I have a
I
soft
mean,
spot in my heart.
I wouldn't say I like hate it. Like there's some people I know that are like, fuck Grimrail. That shouldn't have like they should have just vetoed it. Whatever. I'm just like, it's very linear, and it feels like it's going to be very boring and very
Oh
awful
hell
on
yeah.
storming and very awful on sanguine. Like it
Oh yeah.
almost is like, maybe they should just turn those affixes off as like just like, hey, listen, you have to do Grimrail Depot. Um, we'll take
Double them
pity
up.
on you and like turn off sanguine.
They should double it up. Mobs drop 2 segment puddles every time they die in
Yeah,
Grimrail.
yeah, they're twice as
Um
big too.
no, but it'll be fun to just to go back to those since I mean, I think this is the one thing we've talked about on a couple of podcasts. It's like there's so much content out
Yeah,
there that Blizzard just doesn't make use of. That's like
yeah,
this is a simple, fun thing. It's like you
yeah.
built all these massive dungeons, put all this time into it, and as soon as we leave that expansion, we never go back.
And this is
But like,
something that they actually have done a little bit better with Chromie leveling, like Chromie
mhm,
time walking
yeah,
leveling, being able to go and actually do WoD dungeons, as like you go and you spend your 50 levels doing Warlords or Draenor stuff, and that's very cool. And being able to like go back and do that. This is another like taking some of the end game stuff and revitalizing it, letting us play it again. Is
oh yeah,
I'm really excited to see how this pans out. I'm a little bit concerned about specifically Upper Karazhan, um, because of
really.
all of the magic damage that was directed at tanks in that dungeon.
Oh yeah, that's true.
And
Because that was
tank,
that was the worm. The worm
yeah,
was in that one, right?
the worm was in that one. The end boss has a lot of that one. The
Oh
eye
yeah,
has a lot of magic damage on the tanks. I don't remember the Medivh, obviously Medivh.
yeah.
Um, those are all like very magic damage heavy, and tanks are not as bad as they were in BFA about that. Like they were really,
Uh
really
huh.
bad in BFA. You would never have been able to do Legion dungeons as a BFA tank. You would literally not be capable of, just because of the bosses. The trash would be fine, but the bosses would not.
Hmm.
This time around, it's going to be interesting. I feel like Medivh is going to be a big wall. Like there's going to be a point where if you're playing
Yeah.
like the classes that are not as good as at dealing with magic damage, you will just get stuck because you just won't be able to live the magic damage unless your comp is like built around not making you magic damage by like getting every kick.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah, that'll be. I didn't think about that, but yeah, that dungeon did have a ton of magic damage in it. Um, yeah, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It'll just be cool to go back. I mean,
Oh yeah,
the other
I'm
the other
very
interesting
excited. This is gonna be
the other
fun.
interesting thing the other interesting thing too is that the gearing. They're not changing the well. They mentioned a little bit about what's going to drop, but like if you don't remember, like in WoD, I think even in was it Legion 2. I know WoD for sure. Like necks and rings had primary stat on them,
Yeah,
and they're continuing that.
yeah,
So like necks and rings will drop with primary stat out of Iron Dox and Grimrail, and
and they're
I will tell you,
significantly under budget compared to modern rings.
yeah, which is I mean I think for healers when I did the Mistweaver stuff, they're close. It's like
Okay,
a percent, half a percent in terms of like modern rings, but um like
so
you're
they're
never
not
gonna use them
unusable.
over.
They're just not
Yeah,
bits.
yeah, exactly. I mean, Mechagon rings, if you can make use of those, are going to be best for a ton of classes, right? The sets and um, you're talking about this a little bit, like Drape of Shame from Karazhan for healers. If they actually upgrade the proc, is going to be really good. That was the 5% increase of critical heals,
Yes.
which is like
Yeah.
huge. Um, but yeah, it's interesting to see those old items. It's also like hilarious that there's like one weapon out of Mythic Plus, like main stat int weapon, and there's like 4 trinkets, and they're all terrible.
Yeah.
They're just all just bad.
Yeah.
So it's like,
We're not doing so hot with the tank trinkets either. We're gonna get people getting the titanium plating or whatever it was from the
oh yeah,
Mechagon dungeon that is really bad. Like awful, awful
yeah,
trinket. I did pull up. So Skarzard did a blue post, clarifying a bunch of stuff about the Mythic Plus season. So first off, I guess I want to mention Valor is uncapped and gear is uncapped. So normally at the start of a season before the raid releases, the item level of the drops is actually lower at a plus 15 key than it normally would be in order to like keep it from being too good for raid. Um,
right, right, right.
and Valor has also got a weekly cap of like 750 something. Those are
Mhm.
both not going to be present. You'll be able to grind to your heart's content immediately starting tomorrow in North America.
Super excited. Yeah.
Um, we also have confirmation. So the Keystone Decay is 3 levels. So if you have an 18 key done this week, you will get a 15 key on your reset from your vault. Um, which, or, you know, if you don't have a vault, if you've let your key decay over time, from a higher level, you'll get one from the toss up vendor in Orcs. And they also confirmed a couple of things. Azerite armor is gone, so you will not get that in your vault like you could in BFA, which is
Okay.
good because it is all disabled. Um, and the Warlords of Draenor loot pool like structure is very, very different. I did not actually know this was how it was. I knew it was like wild. Look at the dungeon journal for loot, but
Yeah.
I didn't know this is how it does. So apparently, let me just read the quote. As some of you may know, Warlords of Draenor had a different loot system where over 100 items were shared between all dungeons. For Season
Yep.
4, Brimrail Depot and Iron Docks loot table will comprise of the items unique to those dungeons, as well as a mix of items chosen from that large shared pool to bring it in line with other dungeons. So this basically means that if you've seen the like screenshots of the dungeon journal like loot from Grimrail Depot, or if you go and look at it on live, because you go look at the loot that you could get from Grimrail Depot and see that it's got like 30 different rings in it and like a whole bunch of different main like pieces and a ton of necklaces and like 0% trinkets, for example.
Yeah.
That's not actually what you're going to be dealing with for the Mythic Plus loot table. We don't know exactly what that selected mix of items is going to look like, but I assume it's going to like basically bring it in line with the ratios that they use for current.
Yeah, those old dungeons, it was they would drop like there was I think there was 5 or 6 sets. Basically, they contained every armor piece in that set.
Yeah,
And dungeons could drop like they drop all the chests from it, all the gloves from it, all like the belts from it. And then
right.
another dungeon would drop a different one. So yeah, so there was imagine me trying to build my fun best in slot list and literally just having like 80 items to like choose from out of 2 dungeons. I was like, this is fucking asinine. Sorry. Sorry for my language, but it was awful. And I did all this before this blue post.
Right.
So like at this point, like the WoW head guides from Mistweaver, and I think pretty much every class are updated, but we're gonna have to change it tomorrow when we actually see what goes live because these loot tables weren't updated on PTR. So
Yeah.
it's anybody's
There's
guess.
also a clarification, and I think we mentioned this last week. I think this was like mentioned on Twitter or something last week, but um, non-Tazavesh Shadowlands dungeons are getting their base like mythic island level increased, like they do every
Mhm.
season. But you are not going to be able to upgrade those with Valor. So there's not going to be any shenanigans with pooling like 3 million Valor and then upgrading your IQD from like rank 0 to rank 12. You won't be able to upgrade it at all.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So and that's why I mentioned like if you have a max level changeling or ruby right now, they're still decent to use into next season. You just
Right.
never be able to get it at that item level next season. So
Yeah. Yeah, and
oh
there's
excuse me.
also a couple of small changes, tweaks to the Tazavest dungeons as part of this, which is interesting. Not very much. I don't want to go through all of it. I think for Gambit, the notable one is the Coast Walker Goliath, aka the Giants, are getting
Yeah.
their Tide Stomp nerfed pretty hard. And in both dungeons, we just have the note: enemy forces have been adjusted. No
Wonder what that
idea.
means.
Like
Yeah.
the requirements for count are going to be different, but like adjusted could mean anything. It could mean they've gone up.
Up or down. Yeah.
Yeah. And I don't know what that. I'm afraid that they took Gambit and they were like, people aren't killing enough trash, and
Yeah.
like are gonna make us clear the whole Murloc area in order to
I
get
think
count.
I think that might be the case. Yeah. which I think they just added more to that dungeon specifically. I don't know about streets, but I know for Gambit, I think they've added some to it, so
Yeah,
which sucks. But
that's gonna be a pain. It's yeah.
yeah,
The there's a strat for Gambit where you don't kill a bunch of the trash in the end area because it's way more dangerous. You kill enough to
right.
get through and enough to make doing the boss relatively safe, but then you don't kill the rest, and you just like do the boss with it alive because there's a wall that spawns, and as long as you don't go too close to the wall, you won't pull it.
Oh, interesting. Interesting.
Um,
I didn't
so
realize
you
that.
you kill like the pat. I think the other two stationary ones are like on the other side of the wall. So
Okay.
I don't know for sure. I don't know if this is a legit strat or if this is like a like Galaxy Brain plus 22 strat or something.
Yeah.
Um,
It seems super dangerous, but potentially plausible.
yeah. And then you just go kill a whole lot of Murlocs.
Yeah. That's crazy. That's crazy. Yeah. No, we'll see, I guess, tomorrow when this stuff goes live what the actual adjustments are. For that. And then I guess a final sort of set of quick hitters, because this was stuff that was sort of splattered around, but there's no new legendary ranks. I don't know if we mentioned that,
Yeah.
but legendary stay at 291. There's no new crafters marks. So all your crafting stuff stays at its current item level. There's no new conduits. So your conduits stay at what level. The one nice thing is that the 278 item that gives you all conduits at 278 removes all restrictions in season 4, so you can just buy it
Yep.
at full 278 conduits
It's still I
going
think
into it.
it's got the rep requirement still, but it's a very
Oh,
low
does it?
rep.
Okay.
You have to be like friendly to get it right.
Okay.
It's
Gotcha.
extremely low rep requirement.
Okay. That's
Actually,
good.
wait, no,
That's
you buy
good.
it from no,
Right.
it's the 236 one that's on the Zerethborn's vendor that you buy.
Right. Yeah.
This other one is on the like coveted vendors.
Covenant vendors. Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Never mind then. So there's no rep requirement for the 278 one, which is actually funny. It's going to be easier to get than the
Yeah.
236 one.
Yeah. And then the socket items from season 3 will no longer work in season 4, so use them if you
Or lose
haven't.
them.
But you will get season 4 socket items the same way. It'll be like 6 of the mythic or the great vault items or whatever.
Yeah.
Those currencies. So I think that's everything that I can remember. So
Yeah.
um but yeah, it'll be a crazy season 4, right? Like it's sort of
Yeah.
kind of a fun, like extended end of expansion, like pre-patch almost event, right?
Yeah.
Um
What I really want, what I really, really want to see tomorrow is like,
oh
you
god.
remember how crazy things got with corruption at the end of Nyalotha.
Yeah. Hmm.
That's what I want. That's what I want for this. I want us to like when like and maybe not immediately, right? Like maybe we start like
Yeah.
midway through Nyalotha. And then we get these extra 26 eye levels and we're able to do things like did you do the N'Zoth speed strat? Where
Yes. Yeah.
you skip
Yeah.
the like you don't do the mythic phase, you don't do the final phase. You just like burn the boss during the
Yep.
RP for the start of the mythic phase. That's like that kind of stuff. That's what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah. I forgot. Yeah, I forgot because it'd be interesting to see what you do with like, skipping maybe not jailer phases, right? But you think of other bosses like Zymox, like skipping like the final platform on Zymox or whatever, right?
Yeah.
Um, Pushing him real quick, or yeah, Halandris just like never letting him stop moving, right? Like he
Yeah.
just literally like gets up at the start and just
He
walks
just
like the
walks.
entire way to the end, which would be just hilarious, be cool. Yeah, stuff like that I think would be fun to see if we can get to that level. But yeah, I agree. Like hopefully like 3-4 weeks in when we start that faded rotation again, it's just like easy, like just blasting, right? Because
Yeah.
that's like that was always the most fun about farm to me, was like it was always nice to like not go back but to like do bosses and literally not have to think. It's like pick up your loot, pick up what you want, and just sort of like roll through and have a good time with like your guild, right? It's
Yeah.
the problem is even after we killed Sylvanas all those times, there was still like,
It was
right,
still
I still had to call down cooldowns. Like I still had to call down healing cooldowns and like
yeah.
make adjustments as people die in the middle. And yeah, it just
Yeah.
was, yeah,
It definitely
stressful.
none of the raids this expansion have gotten as easy as the ones in BFA got at the end of their
Yeah.
lifetimes. Like that I mean, Nihilitha was really exceptional in how crazy things got because of corruption. But
Yeah,
even like BOD was like fairly straightforward at the end. Just kind of like did a ton of damage and just crushed the bosses. And
yeah,
that was nice. That was nice. In a way, it's actually this is kind of closest. The closest precedent for this is Crucible of Storms release, where it like released and like even if you didn't do Mythic, you still got new items from
yeah,
the new raid bosses, and then you could take those back into the existing raid tier and like to further crush.
yeah, yeah. No, it'll be fun to. Hopefully, it's tuned that way. I mean, I can definitely see Blizzard, going the opposite direction. Like Mythic Sylvanas is still Mythic Sylvanas, and still
Yeah,
like a 2-3 hours worth of wipes to get
uh,
that muscle memory back and re-kill it, which is just I'm not for it. Like I'm
no,
not for it this season.
no. Like imagine how long is it going to take you to get a Mythic item with Dinar if that's the case for like a I mean obviously like Limit and Echo will get through it in the first week if it's tuned like that. It's fine.
Yeah.
They did it the first time around.
Yeah, exactly.
um,
Exactly.
but for the rest of us, like if you need 20 boss kills to get a single Dinar item, a single mythic Dinar item, you need to get 20 mythic boss kills. If it's tuned
Yeah.
real high, then we're not going to
That's like
be
three,
full
4 weeks.
clearing the
Yeah.
first couple weeks at least. So
Exactly.
yeah, it's going to be like week 6 or something before you can. No, it won't be that bad, but it'll be like week 4 that you get your first
Yeah.
like mythic Dinar item.
And you already have your 3 Dinar items at that point too.
Right? They're
Like
just not. They're just
if
normal
you're
eye
if
level.
you're killing lower. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just yeah, I mean, hopefully they hit that tuning mark just right and it's not bad in that
Right.
regard, right? But I guess we'll see.
They did
I
not.
hope hopefully you blast.
They did not give me what I wanted though, which is
What was that?
removing Kel'Thuzad and Fate Scribe from the raid.
Maybe
And Lords of Dread, actually. I'm really curious. Okay, so we have this looming in front of us. What do you think by the end of the season is going to be your least favorite boss from the season?
out of all 4 raids or 3 raids, I'm sorry.
Yeah, all 3 raids. Not talking about
Oh god.
progression, not talking about
Yeah.
like how it was the first time you did it. In season 4, what do you think is going to be the boss that you like hate the most?
I mean it honestly might be Lords, to be fair. Because I'm trying to think of like the old boss if there was like the personal responsibility that just slowly rots and kills you.
Yeah,
I don't I mean,
I think
I feel like yeah, I feel like it's gonna be Lords for me, now that you say it that way.
I think for me it's going to be either Lords or Kael'thas with or Kel'Thuzad, sorry, not Kael'thas, the other
Uh,
KT. um,
yeah.
or Fate Scribe. It really like Fate Scribe is like maybe not going to be too bad, but like Lords and Kael'thas or Kael'thas, Lords or Kael'thas. It's going to be one of those two.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I could get behind a little bit about Kel'Thuzad. There's really nothing from Nathria that like SLG and like Council kind of, but I feel like you
SLG
can
wasn't that
overcome
bad
those
on
with gear.
farm. Yeah,
No, no, SLG really wasn't. And like Council was only bad because it was literally like we'd kill every other boss, and if we had time, we'd do Council. So it was
yeah,
like the last boss we do at the end of the night. It was always sort of a kind of a cluster, but
yeah.
um, yeah, I think it'll end up being Lords probably if we talk about this like in a couple weeks. It'd be like, yeah, I hate this boss with all passion and soul, and you have to
Oh,
kill it to get to the jailer every week, right?
yeah.
Like
It's
this skip sucks. By the way, it's what it
yeah.
removes like not even half the bosses.
It does
So
remove
if you
half
kill
the
like,
bosses. You have to do 5. You have to do Vigilant,
um,
Antuin, Lords, Rygalon, and the Jailer.
that's ridiculous. That's not even a skip. It's worthless.
As
I hate
opposed to
this
like the
game.
previous ones where like the Sanctum one, you go Terragru, Kel'Thuzad, Sylvanas. And the Castle Nathria
Yeah,
one, you go Shriekwing, Sludgefish, Sludgefish,
Clutch Rush.
Sludgefist, SLG, and then Denathrius. It's like, okay, so we're still having to do like half a raid with the
Yeah,
skip.
yeah, yeah. Which is, I guess, Did Sludgefish drop higher item level gear?
No,
Do you remember?
he did not.
Oh. So I'm gonna be like, well, maybe they just made you kill the bosses that drop. Well, Anduin doesn't drop higher item level gear, so it makes 0 sense.
Nope.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. These
Nope.
raids. I mean, it's cool that they branch, but like, give us a way just to get to the last boss. That's all we care about, man. That's what
Yeah,
mounts.
it's yeah, just one mounts. But they actually
Yeah.
one final thing. They did confirm all of our skips will work.
Yeah, which is great.
So you can, assuming it's not like tuned super high, you can just go straight through, Shriekwing, Ledgefist, SLG, Denathrius, and kill everything except for Council of Blood.
I'm so excited about that. Fuck that boss. That and Fate Scribe, I think, are gonna be like my most fun skipped bosses, I think.
Yes, because Fate Scribe is the same
So
way. You can just not do it.
yeah.
Fate Scribe
Yeah.
has the like extra bit where like it drops one good item. It's a tank
Yeah,
trinket,
but
and your tanks don't need it on farm, so you can just skip it
it's
and no harm, no foul.
yeah, it's an easy skip, yeah. Yeah, that's funny though. Oh man. I mean, to be fair, I am excited about the season. I think it's gonna be fun to play retail. But I think a lot of that fun depends on how they tune the raids, right?
Yeah,
If they're over tuned, I think it just becomes like unfun, and I probably something where we just kill or we just kill jailer and get mounts, and that's it. That's all we
yeah.
do.
It'll probably, if it's tuned too high, what will probably happen for us is we just like get to like eye level 308 or whatever the new realistic cap is, and then stop doing faded and just do mount.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I don't even think we go for item level. If like it doesn't affect us farming mounts, like we'll
It
probably just
is
do
going to be a
whatever.
lot easier to get through
That's true.
Sepulcher with an extra 26 eye levels, because you think about the hard parts of each of those bosses. Like Rygolon becomes a complete joke because you just kill it before the like third
Yeah.
down phase. Lords of Dread, like we are hitting like in the 60% right now in the first burn with an extra 26 eye levels. The boss is gonna be
That's
in
true. Yeah.
execute range.
Yeah. It's almost becomes like 2 swarm phases and you're done at that point.
Yeah. And just so it's just gonna be like significantly easier. And then like the jailer, you'll skip a bunch of mechanics. The jailer will actually be the worst because you'll skip at awkward times. Um,
Yeah. You
like
have to learn the new timing. Yeah.
we had a poll last night. We got the healing absorbs that spawn
Uh
right as we push out of phase 3. That kind of push
oh.
timer is like really not great because those don't despawn. So we were like
Yeah.
starting phase 3 with this, like we couldn't move away from the defiles and everything. We had to like sit there, do the healing absorbs, and then move. It's very dicey. We all died.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That'll be fun though, learning those new push timings.
yeah, but then
I
like on
love those.
Anduin, everybody's gonna be able to do the like the just speed strat where you just ignore phase 2 basically. You just pin his HP during the. Ideally, we'll be able to pin his HP during the first burn. Just go
Right.
straight to
Yeah.
10% and start phase 3 and then kill him.
Yeah. That'll be nice. That's true. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it'll be a fun season to just sort of mess around. Hopefully it's like that.
Yeah,
We'll see. We'll see.
I
So
will say I think one of the most interesting bosses for Faded specifically is going to be Sludgefist because of the damage amps. Trying to
that's
like
true.
line up creation spark dispels so that you get damage amps on a ton of people during the damage amp from the boss. And it's not like the end of
Yeah,
the
it's
world if
true.
you fail to get it, right? It's just going to be really awesome for your DPS when you do line it up. That's going to be fun.
Yeah. It'll be like a fun little mini game with some of the affixes also. I hope the affixes don't cause like weird mechanic overlaps or like
Yeah,
issues where like you mentioned the Kel'Thuzad one where if it spawns a bunch of ads as you're split, like how do you handle something like that? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. Hopefully they're implemented with some level of like,
yeah.
I don't know, of
Consistency.
thought process. Yeah.
Yeah,
Or just consistent or like thought from the developers. We'll see though. I'm assuming they're testing all this on live anyway, so
yeah,
you'll make out well writing on
yeah,
Saturday, but our
yeah,
Tuesday might be a little rough.
yeah.
So
Yeah, like we haven't even. I was gonna ask like, what are your plans for like your first week of season 4? But like, we have no plans for the first week of season 4. Effectively, our plan is to sit and watch Twitch streams on Tuesday and figure out what the fuck is going on.
yeah, I mean, we're gonna. Our only goal is to kill Anduin this week. So like, if we get Anduin down to get the skip, that's our goal. Everything
Yeah,
else is gravy. So
I have no idea what we're doing for Sepulcher. Like, we want to go in and we want to get mounts, but it's gonna be so much easier to do with higher eye level that it and we don't have our own skip, but I think we can borrow one from the other team, because they have
yeah.
people that are main swapping for season that have the skip. They no, they don't have the skip. We'll figure it out.
Oh, stop being so good at the game. Being good, be on the same level as the main or
Well, like
the
we extended twice in order to get jailer rekills for CEs, just because like
Mhm.
we were doing like this past couple weeks, just like repro. There were some definite like failures there on leadership end last week that led to us losing some time, but like we spent so much time on Lords of Dread this week.
Yeah.
Um, it is reprog, so um we've only got 3 rekills of or 3 kills of Anduin, so we don't have the skip yet. I don't think the other team has the skip yet either. But I mean, worst case, we just go in with like +30 eye level, and
Yeah, it's true.
the bosses are gonna die real fast.
Yeah, maybe it's even better. Yeah. I mean, with the only problem I have with us, like the only thing that I'll see like our raid leaders will say is like because we raid on Tuesday, there's bound to be bugs. So like
Yes,
let's at least make it
that's
efficient.
valid.
Like
Yes.
get the skip and then we can figure out where to go from there, basically.
Yeah, I think that's very, very reasonable. It's just
Yeah.
because we're on Friday, right? That we can see and adjust our plans. And if we look at it and it is like really hard and not great, and we'll go back into Sepulcher with like all of our Mythic Plus gear, because people will be able to do
Yeah,
Mythic Plus on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday,
that's true.
and so
Yeah.
we'll have just an extra 10 eye levels and a lot of on a lot of people, and be able to just you know kind of crush it.
Get all those new tier set items. Yeah,
Yeah,
that's true. That's true. Well, man. Well, it'll be exciting for sure. So
yeah. I have no idea what to expect. This is gonna Tomorrow is going to be an adventure.
yeah. Yeah. I mean that's
More for you than
it's a
for me,
basic
but an adventure for us
yeah.
all.
Well, it's not only like going into the raid, but then all the updates I'll have to do to the Wowhead stuff and all the guides and stuff like that'll be
Yeah.
it'll be great.
Man.
So
All right. And last bit before we wrap up the podcast. Okay.
yep.
What are your 3 Dinar items, assuming you don't get drops?
Oh, the two trinkets. So Cabalist Hymnal, best trinket from Mistweaver. Ocular Gland, the eye
Mm-hmm.
trinket. And then Pursuit of Victory, the weapon from Prototype Pantheon.
Solid.
Are the are the three. Actually, or I guess Maledict Opus. One of the two. I forget which one's better, but one of the two stabs you can get. Either the Kel'Thuzad one or the prototype one. Are your top three. And if you get those, or if you get one of those three, to be fair, if you do any sort of Mythic Plus, you get the damage trinket from Desagne. Um,
Yeah.
and then from there, it's like buy an item that's a gap item. Like I don't know what to tell you after those three,
Yeah.
right? Or those four. So
I feel like tanks actually have it kind of hard, because you really want 2 sets of trinkets. You want 2 damage trinkets for when you don't need defensives, and you want a set of defensive trinkets, because the
yep.
only good defensive trinkets next tier are coming from raids, which is already 4 items. But for at least a Brewmaster, you also want 2 Vein Rippers.
Oh, that's awful. Yeah.
So it's gonna be hard. I think that the correct play for most people is going to be to completely skip buying the defensive trinkets from the Dinar vendor. You get your Vein
Yeah.
Rippers, and you get one DPS trinket like Cash in particular is very good. And the reason for that is there are going to be a lot of people rolling against you to get those items. Like Vein
Hmm.
Ripper is used by every agility DPS, and except for rogues who will use their rogue decks. And cash is also used by every agility DPS. So those are both going to be very high contention items, so they're going to be harder to get. Um, and also, like, the defensive trinkets you're going to want. You're going to want Aegis. Aegis drops from the third boss in Sanctum of Domination. You can just go and pug that on normal, heroic, mythic, and get it from one of those difficulties, and then upgrade the item using the currency.
Right. Yeah.
And the other one that you would probably want, like maybe a Fate Scribe trinket, maybe a trinket from Reactive Defense Matrix from Guardian of the First Ones, and Fate Scribe. Okay, that one I could definitely, like, if you want to cheat Death Trinket, I could definitely see buying that one with the Dinar, because Fate Scribe is not puggable. It's just not.
Yeah.
It's really not. But Guardian is very easy to do at a pug. So if you get a pug, like if you have a skip and you could pug Mythic Guardian. Like, it's super possible to do.
Interesting.
But yeah. That's kind of, it's basically Vein Rippers plus like a trinket, which is kind of unfortunate, but that is how it is.
Yeah.
I think
but it's the same for, I think, almost every class is going to be like, if you have a highly contested weapon, get the weapon, and if you don't, then get your best trinkets, right? Like that's the idea. So
yep. I do think like the cadence of the Dinar release is going to be kind of nice, because we're going to get through 2 rounds of Sanctum before we get all of our Dinar. Or like we'll get our last one during the final Dinar week, or during the second Sanctum week. So what you can do is you can just hang on to it during that week and clear through Painsmith on each difficulty, and if you get it, then you can just keep it and upgrade it, and if you don't, then you can buy the weapon.
Yeah, which is probably like the best advice, is like hold on to it until you at least go through like one cycle of Fated Raids, and then buy what you missed, right? What you missed out on.
At least Vein Rippers, you have the knowledge that it is insanely unlikely that you're going to actually get 2 as natural drops. So
yeah. Yeah. And don't trade anything away.
But yeah, I think that is going to bring today's show to an end. Apologies again for the unannounced, unplanned delay. This will be edited and up later tonight. Yeah. We just got someone in chat. Whoops, I just got here. Just in time for us to do the outro.
Yeah, exactly.
But thank you all for watching and or listening. And if you enjoy this podcast and you want to support it and the other work that we do over on the Peak of Serenity, you can do that over at our Patreon at patreon.com/Peak of Serenity. And of course, come and join the Discord. It is a great place to come and hang out. Some very knowledgeable people. A bunch of people right now in every channel answering questions about what to buy with your Dinar, despite nobody having any Dinar yet. But, you know, soon.
Yes.
But thank you all for listening, and we will see you next week.
Bye.